In your UniFi network, if you use Ubiquiti's gateway, for example UDM Pro in my case, if you go to setting, your Wi-Fi SSID, in the security part, if you want to enable the enterprise security, for example WPA2 enterprise, see here the options are changed and the radius profile. By default, it listed one and you can add more. If you wonder where the radius profile comes from, you can go to the settings, profiles, and the radius tab. You can either change the ones you have or create new one. For example, for the default one, you simply enable it, give it a password, make changes if you want about ports, then that's done. So that's how easy it is to enable radius, enable the WPA enterprise authentication for your AP if you use UniFi gateway. It works out of box and in a very user-friendly way. However, it also has its apparent shortcomings. For example, you can see the settings are very simple. What if you want to have more controls, have more customized settings? And to make it worse, what if you don't use UniFi gateways? What if you use pfSense? How you can do similar thing to enable WPA, enterprise, and radius? In this video, let's talk about that. These are two articles from Wikipedia. The left one is about IEEE 802.1x. It defines the encapsulation of EAPOL or EAP over LAN. Here LAN can be Ethernet network or it can be Wi-Fi network. In the right side, it tells you what's radius. It's a network protocol. It provides AAA management for users. AAA stands for Authentication, Authorization, and Accounting. In this video, we are going to talk about how to use the FreeRADIUS server on pfSense, then provide the service to UniFi access points to support WPA enterprise authentication. This is a simplified diagram to show you how it works. So you have three different devices. Your Wi-Fi client, it can be in any operating system, and you have the UniFi access point. Then you have your pfSense. On your pfSense, you run FreeRADIUS server. When you configure your access point with WPA enterprise authentication, your device will send the EAP over LAN request. Then your AP will communicate with FreeRADIUS server, and the FreeRADIUS server will, based on the EAP type, it will provide corresponding service, either accept or reject the service to your Wi-Fi client. Only after the whole process is successful, your client will gain the access to your network. I know there are already a lot of acronyms. Here are two more, PEEP and MS-CHAP v2. They are important because they are being talked about and used frequently in the radius server configurations. PEEP is protected EAP. It encapsulates the EAP method within a TLS tunnel. And MS-CHAP v2 is Microsoft CHAP credentials relayed by your radius server. Okay, in this video, we are going to use PEEP with MS-CHAP v2 for the EAP type. And because the three different devices are important in the whole process in different ways, there will be three sections in this video. I will first talk about how to configure FreeRADIUS server on pfSense, then talk about how to configure the UniFi access points. Then let's see how different operating systems behave differently on your Wi-Fi clients. In the end of the video, let's talk about multiple access points or roaming. This is the screen layout I'm going to use. The three devices, your client, pfSense, and UniFi network controller. Let's start with pfSense. Of course, first you need to install the FreeRADIUS server. It doesn't come with pfSense, it's additional package. So you need to go to package manager and install FreeRADIUS. The next part is to create an interface. let me go to Services, FreeRADIUS, go to Interfaces, then let me add one. Because this video is only about WPA Enterprise Authentication, I'm only going to create one interface for authentication purpose, and the default port is 1812. I don't want to restrict the interface IP address, so I leave it the default star. I change nothing, save it. Then I need to create certificates. Let me go to System, Certificates. So the first one I need to create is a CA certificate. I don't want to use the existing one. As you see here, it's called FreeRADIUS CA. It comes with your FreeRADIUS package installation. So let me create one just for this video. Yeah, let me give it a description. This common name is mandatory. Let me say my LLC CA, just a unique name, that's it. I don't want to change anything else. Save it. Now I have a new CA. You can see the issuer is self-signed and is for internal usage. Then go to certificates. Again, the existing ones, I don't want to use them. For example, this server certificate comes with your FreeRADIUS installation. So let me create my own. Use the CA I just created. Add a new one. Give it a description. About the CA, let me choose the one I just created. Here the certificate type is important. By default, it's user certificate. I want to create a server certificate. So depending on the client operating system you use, for example, if you use Mac OS, it seems it's not picky about the certificate type. So it will still authenticate correctly to your AP. But let's say for Android or for Windows, it will simply fail without telling you why. So it's very annoying. So make sure when you create the certificate, you choose server certificate as the type. And of course, another mandatory part is the common name. So let me say my LLC, it's just a random name. Okay, I believe I'm done. Save. Yeah, I created two new certificates. One for CA, the other one is a server certificate. Now it's time to go back to the FreeRADIUS configuration. Go to Services, FreeRADIUS. Now I need to configure EAP here. If you want, you can take this one just to disable those weak EAP types. For example, MD5, GTC. Of course, it's optional. Then the EAP type is crucial, but by default, it's already PEEP. Remember, for this video, I want to use PEEP, which is protected EAP. This one you want to change. Remember, we just created a new CA certificate, right? Let me choose the one I just created. The next one, server certificate. Remember, we created two certificates, right? So this one refers to the second one we created. Let me choose it. Then let me see what else. About the EAP PEEP section, by default, it's already MS CHAP v2, so I'm good. Save. The EAP configuration is saved. Next, let's go to the client's configuration. Let me add one. I need to input the client IP address. Don't be confused about the client wording. It's not referring to your Wi-Fi devices. No, in our case, it's asking about the access point's IP address. So in the right side, let me go to UniFi network controller and I can get the IP address here. Okay, done. Then the next thing is the client shared secret. We are going to need this secret or password later when we configure the UniFi access point. Let me input a secret. I don't want to change anything else. Oh, I need to give the client a short name. Let me say UniFi AP. It doesn't allow space. Okay, try again. Okay, finally it's saved. Now the very last step in pfSense is we need to maintain users. This is the easy way. So you directly maintain a user credentials within FreeRADIUS. So in my case, it's perfectly fine for the demo, but in your case, if you have a large organization, you can seek other ways. Let me add a test user, user1, and give it a password. Then again, for the demo purpose, I don't want to change anything else. Save. Okay, I'm done with the pfSense side settings. Let's move on to UniFi network controller. You already know the gateway or router for this lab environment is not UniFi gateway, it's pfSense, right? That's why in this diagram you only see a switch and 2 access points. If you go to Wi-Fi, you want to change the authentication for your SSID to WPA Enterprise, you need to first have a radius profile. So then you need to first go to profile. You see the link, it's called create new profile. You click on it. This is what you see. It's a warning. So basically it's saying you are not using UniFi gateway. If you do want to create a new profile, go ahead, do it, but it's only called pre-configure, which implies all your effort will be wasted. It won't be used simply because you don't use UniFi gateway. So that's really worrisome because that implies I won't be able to connect to my pfSense FreeRADIUS at all, right? But is that really the case? Let's test it out. Because I got this warning, I don't want to proceed. But remember, we have a good old thing. It's called classic UI or legacy UI, whatever you want to call it. Let me switch to that UI. Okay, I'm in the legacy UI. If I go to profile, I do see this radius configuration here. If I click the button, no warning, it simply let me do it. So let's create a profile. Let's simply call it pfSense. For IP address, basically it's asking for the radius server IP address. We install the FreeRADIUS on pfSense. Of course, the IP address is my pfSense IP address. And then port, remember in pfSense, when we add the FreeRADIUS interface, we created one with the default port for authentication, right? So yes, this default port works fine. Here is asking about the shared secret. Remember where we create the shared secret? It's when we create the clients. So this is the secret we put in pfSense, right? Here in UniFi network controller, let me input the same information. That's it. Save it. Done. No warning. It seems it should work because I didn't get any error. Now let me switch back to the new UI. Proceed with the access point configuration change. Okay, I'm back to the new UI. Let me check the profile I just created. Click on profile, go to radius. No, it simply doesn't show the one I just created. So the new UI doesn't like the custom profile I just created. Okay, I don't care. Go to Wi-Fi SSID. Then finally, it's the time to change the authentication. Change it to WPA2 Enterprise. Don't worry, later we will test the WPA3 Enterprise for radius profile. Even though the new UI doesn't show it in the radius section, it does show it here. So I can select it, then accept the default setting, apply changes. Okay, basically we are done with the setting. Remember, theoretically, we should change the AP, right? Instead, we are changing the SSID. But that's how UniFi network controller works. You don't set this radius profile individually AP by AP. It's globally done on your SSID. Okay, so I'm good with the access point side. Now let's move on to the third section of the video, which is for client. Let's start with Mac OS. On this Mac machine, let me go to Wi-Fi. See, it lists this SSID we just prepared, the radius test. Click on it. It asks for username and the password. What's the username and password? Remember in pfSense, we set it in the users section for the service, right? So let me provide the same user ID and password. Okay, I believe you never see it if you use the normal WPA2 or 3 personal. So it asks you to validate whether you trust this certificate. When we work on certificate, in the very beginning of the video, remember I go to the system certificates in pfSense and prepared 2 certificates, right? One CA, one server certificate. Let's see what the macOS tells us. Click Show Certificate. Yeah, it's issued by this CA. Remember, that's the name I used in my CA certificate. And this particular certificate has this common name. Where do we set this common name? In the server certificate, right? The information is exactly what we set in the pfSense certificates. Then macOS asked me to use my administrator's password to update the setting. That makes sense? Okay, I'm in. And in the UniFi network controller, you can see it's refreshed. It's showing a new client machine connected through Wi-Fi. That's our Mac mini computer. Okay, that's what Mac user will feel if you use a enterprise WPA2 authentication. Then let's move on to a Windows laptop. Go to Wi-Fi. Yep, this SSID is listed here. Click on it. Connect. Yeah, see, it's asking for username and password. Let me use the same username and password I input in the FreeRADIUS site. Click OK. See, it gives you similar information as in macOS. If you want, you can show the certificate details. Similar information here. I trust it. I select Connect. Yeah, it's connected. So the difference if you compare to macOS is it doesn't need administrator's access to update the system setting. In the lower part of the network controller, you can see the Windows laptop is connected. Okay, we are good with Windows. Let me move on to Android. Okay, on the phone, in Wi-Fi settings, I can see all the SSIDs, including the radius test. Click on it. Interestingly, it shows PIP and MS Chap v2, which were hidden in macOS and Windows. And then for CA certificate, I chose the Trust on First Use. Now it's time to input username and password. It has a anonymous identity. I simply ignore it. I'm done with username and password. Click on Connect. Okay, it shows me the certificate information similarly as before. Then it's done. It's successfully connected. Okay, from the UniFi network controller, you can see all the 3 different Wi-Fi devices. They are all successfully connected to the U6 Lite. Remember, in the left side in pfSense, when we set up the clients, we input a IP address, right? What's this IP address? It's the U6 Lite. So we are lucky because all the 3 devices are all closer to the U6 Lite, so they chose to connect to this AP, right? What if I want them to connect to the other AP, U6 Mesh? Whether they can successfully connect it based on the current FreeRADIUS setting. Let's test it out. How we can force the 3 devices to connect to the U6 mesh. Let's manipulate the SSID. Currently, this SSID is broadcasting on both APs. Let me only broadcast on the U6 mesh. Okay, give it some time for the 2 APs to have the provisionings done. Okay, they are all showing gray status. From the Mac machine, you can see it seems it found the original SSID right away, and it seems it's connected. But then see the changing Wi-Fi signal, it failed. It chose to connect to another SSID. So why this one doesn't work? Because this time it has to connect through the U6 mesh, and the U6 mesh doesn't have the IP address we set in pfSense, so the whole radius communications didn't work. How we can fix it? Very simple. You go to the client setting in pfSense. You either add the AP's IP address one by one, or I simply add the whole subnet. Then let's go back to the Mac machine. Try to connect to the same SSID again. See, this time is successful. Now we are good with multiple APs, right? Before we end this video, let's do one more testing. Everything we tried so far was WPA2 Enterprise. What if we use WPA3 Enterprise? Do we need to change anything? Let's try it. So in UniFi network controller, let me go to the same SSID, under security, change to WPA3 enterprise and change nothing else. Apply changes. Okay, provisioning is done. Let's go back to Mac machine. Now it's still showing connected, but let me disable Wi-Fi and enable it again. See, it's connected automatically without any error. It's just like nothing's happened. It worked automatically. Okay, now we have finished everything we want to test. Thanks for watching.